African and African American communities. We cover 18 cities, the unincorporated areas, 89 zip codes, and that was before we went online. So now that we are online, we are covering even more, not just in San Diego County and the city, but other cities. And we are international in our coverage. We have coverage, people tuning in from 184 countries. At least 12 of them are in Africa. And from cities here in the States, will San Diego having the largest number, and then we have numbers from Sacramento, New York, San Jose, going on up the coast. And LA does so well that sometimes people quote us from LA publications. So we're excited tonight that we are going to have with us, as we do this, with Dr. Leonard Thompson III and Ms. LaTanya West, the managing editor of The Voice and Viewpoint. And we are being joined by Dr. Lachey Sharp Collins, who is the 79th Assembly District Representative. And I'm especially pleased to have her because she might not notice or remember, but in the early 1990s, I was running for the 79th. Mess that's going on here. And the thing that I think we can do most and best of all is continue to protest, continue the presence, the pressure that's coming with that. And now people are looking for candidates in the various congressional and senatorial districts to run against the Republicans, which is the one way we can take our government back. And so we can't really be concerned about the Democratic Party at this point because the party is not doing anything. And here in California, we have more registered independents than we have Democrats, Republicans. And so we got to be looking at who are the best people that we can work with. You back up?
We are back
Okay.
up, and I do apologize for the technical difficulties, but we are back up and we are ready to have a great conversation with Assembly member
Dr. Lachey
Dr. Lachey
Sharp Collins.
And so, Dr. Warren,
We want to
kick it
set
over
the
you.
tone. Here's what we'd like to do. We want this to be a legislative exploratory scenario for you. And I was impressed with the fact that shortly after going into office, you introduced some 21 bills.
Yes.
And it's important to talk about at least some of them briefly because they impact our lives in so many ways. And it's the kind of stuff that you said you were going to do, and you did it right away. So as you speak to those, maybe you can speak maybe first or later on to the one bill that created so much disturbance this week. But we're only interested in the bill and what the issue was with the legislation and the fact that there were other assembly members involved with you. And so because we want people to get educated to what's happening in terms of the process and not the other elements. So we give the mic to you.
Okay, well, good evening, and thank you so much for having me here today. I'm excited about the opportunity to share a little bit more insight in regards to the work that I have been doing. As promised, when I was on my trail to get here, I said that I will do everything I can to elevate the voices of folks from our community, and that's exactly what I'm doing with my legislative package that I like to call the Working for Families package. There are a couple of bills that I can highlight for you because you have already stated I have 21. So there's AB 1324. AB 1324 is my CalWorks bill, and that bill expands access to CalWorks for folks that are self-employed, but also people who are working more than 100 hours per month. Currently, there is a 100-hour rule, so there's a clause there that no one can work over that amount to remain eligible for CalWorks, and that's not acceptable in this current climate as we talk about affordability. The other two components of this bill is also making sure that workers who are advocating for better working conditions can actually still go on strike and not lose their Cal Work benefit, and make sure that also we are having programs that are going to focus on job opportunities that actually lift families out of poverty. So we want to make sure we're able to do that. Through all of that work, we're also asking for a feasibility study to be done to ensure that maybe down the line we can increase the eligibility, because it's not only our the lower income communities, but we have a lot of middle class families that are still needing some additional support. Another bill is AB 1211. That bill is my CalFresh bill. And we already know that we're going to be facing some of our federal government cuts. And so this is just basically saying that in light of the potential federal cuts that are going to come, we're asking for the state to maintain the current funding levels that currently exist. And while we are maintaining the current funding levels, we also want another feasibility study to be done so we can increase the benefits and also expand the eligibility, as well as we think about middle class families and of course others. So that's two of those. I'm not sure if I'm talking too fast or if there's any questions about those. I have a couple of
Well,
more.
I have one for you that's important. You might let people know which committees that you're serving on
Oh,
and
absolutely.
whether some of your bills have been referred to the committees that you're on.
So
Be-
all of my bills have been referred out of committee. Actually, they are now going to appropriations, and I just came from appropriations meeting now in the hopes of getting. I have 17 bills that will be held in appropriations. Currently, I serve on aging and long-term care. I serve on the budget committee, budget sub two, which is the human services. I serve on health, serve on higher ed. Now I'm also on military and veterans affairs and public safety. Along with that, I'm also the assistant majority leader over policy and research as well. And I'm also the regional coordinator for the Democratic Caucus for the NCSL. So those are the things that I'm currently doing, and these committees give me a strong platform to advocate for health, safety, economic well-being, and so many other things for our district.
Well, you're a member of the Legislative Caucus, and so one of the things that we in the Black press have been concerned about was AB 1444.
Right.
And AB 1444 was a bill that many of us feel the California News Publishers people were pushing to try to make it mandatory to create a depository for public notice, which would cut into the statute requirement of public notice in terms of notice being given to newspapers. And so I was very pleased to know that you've been monitoring that for us. There was an effort to kind of push that bill. I think it was the Flores bill,
Yes,
the first of
Laura.
this week, and then it got pulled. And when they did it in the last legislative session, the governor vetoed it. And so we've been lining up the votes for the veto, and we want to make sure we're still willing to work with them, but we haven't heard of them accepting some of the amendments that we've offered. And so I've
Okay.
written some. So we appreciate your looking out for us like that. It's been the first time that I know of that we've had someone in the legislative caucus that gave attention to the issues that might confront the press, our press, because we have some 25 African American papers in the state, but then we have a whole host of independent publications. Many are Asian, Latino, and it's a variety of them. And many of us will be in Sacramento on May 19th for a one-day session as we look at some of these things. So we do appreciate that very, very much. Okay.
You're absolutely welcome. You are welcome. And as I continue to look out for our community members and make sure that all of you guys are informed in regards to different policies that are coming forward, if you don't mind, I have a couple of more that I can highlight that
Please
are
go
part
right
of the
ahead.
package.
And are you, volume-wise, are we,
Yeah.
okay, we are, okay, good,
Okay.
please.
So we have Assembly Bill 766. And 766, as I like to say, from that song, to get your kicks on Route 66, I get kicks on 766.
Okay.
766, it is a bill that's going to safeguard DEIA. This was something that we were looking to do prior to the Trump administration pushing forth his whole shenanigans pertaining to DEI. But this is actually introduced as a part of the California Legislative Black Caucus Road to Repair 2025 package. And so the DEIA bill itself is going to safeguard DEIA programs within the state by requiring a racial equity review of new regulations conducted by the DEI coordinator or similarly qualified staff. And so I'm saying if you don't have an actual coordinator, we're giving you a listing of folks that could be eligible to do that work. But there's also, as you are going to do some new regulations, budget work, whatever you're going to do, make sure that you're doing that from the equitable lens by looking at the racial equity.
Well,
Review of
Lachey,
that.
you know that the governor and the attorney general, and I'm sure the legislature created a fund for litigation against the Trump administration because they knew that all these cuts were going to impact us. And I think in the area of the California Department of Health and Human Services, that the cuts are about $880 million, somewhere in that range. And looking at how that's going to really hit us because we were putting so many programs in place with the new dollars available under Medi-Cal. And a lot of that is at risk at this point. So
Yes.
has there been any further communication from either the governor or the AG with the legislature about the status of the lawsuit they've already filed?
No,
Okay,
no.
all
Not
right,
yet.
thank you.
So,
And how many
you're
members
welcome.
are there of the caucus in the assembly,
Ooh,
Black Caucus?
ooh. Of the Black Caucus, it is still 12.
Okay, up to 12.
Mhm.
Okay, because we know we got the other caucuses, but just, are the other caucuses working with you as much as they can?
Yes.
Are they receptive? Okay, great.
And we actually have an article on our cover about some of those bills that are pushing back against the DEI
Yeah.
stuff
Okay.
coming down. So it's very encouraging to know that we've got people in Sacramento fighting for our interests. You know, we're not forgotten. You know, I think that's so important for everyone to know, you know.
Absolutely, absolutely. And not only are we fighting for our interests as it pertains to diversity, equity, inclusion, access, we're also fighting in the sense of another bill that's AB 1279. So that one ends the use of juvenile adjudication as strikes under the three strikes law. So we are addressing an actual outdated and unjust sentencing practices, excuse me, that currently exist. So we're basically saying that through this process that our juveniles should have an actual jury hearing moving forward instead of just now allowing them to obviously receive their third strike based on behavior that was done when they were a teenager. So think about the whole mental development, you know what I mean, and them being able to grow and then be able to come back out and now be a good contributor to today's society. And so we want to make sure that we can get that change moving forward, so that way so many people will not be receiving a third strike based on something they've done as a child.
Well,
So
were you
important.
aware that in the first administration, I know this is weird because Trump has done so little good, but this really stands out, that in the first administration, the Kardashians got him to move on legislation that said that any young person under the age of 21 or younger, who went to prison for any long-term sentence, that those people were eligible for review and release. Okay? And it's a matter that hit my family directly because I had a nephew who had been sentenced to 80 years because he was present when a conversation was held by the perpetrator about the murder of a young person for some clothing. And the judge at his sentencing was so mean that she said the only way he would ever get out of prison would be in a box. And so with the Innocence Projects and this law that Trump got done based on the Kardashians coming to the rescue of one of their friends, he got out on his 41st birthday after having served 20 years for what he didn't do. But he came out educated with degrees and credentials and a whole bit. And the Innocence Project is now working to get restitution for him for time served. We have that kind of victimization in California because the three strikes rule was a product of the California prison guards. And they pushed for that so that they could have more higher overtime employment. And the only thing that stopped them, as you probably know, is that the federal court intervened, put the state prison system in receivership because they were overcrowded. And that's when they started doing Prop 47 and those others to send people back to the county to make room in the jails without sending them money to support them. And so I know you have those discussions floating around. And I don't know, is anyone addressing any of this, or they just, being blinded by everything that's going on right now?
I mean, there's so much going on right now that I don't want to say people are blinded by it. It's there, but they're just trying to tackle the bigger, the other things that are currently before us, such as the fires that happened in LA and this budget deficit, because we're looking at possibly a $20 billion deficit. And
Well, give us an idea of what your workday is like, because I know you're working overtime. So let's tell us, what's your workday? You start at 6 and finish at midnight, or how do you do it?
there you go. You finish at midnight.
Okay.
No, seriously, sometimes it could be 21 meetings within a day. But if there are committee hearings, it could be, sometimes I'm here starting at 7:30 or 8 o'clock and not out of here till 10 o'clock or 9:30 at night.
Mm-hmm.
So there are very long days, and sometimes the hearings itself will take all day. Health is a very long committee. Public safety is a very long committee. And so we tend to be here the entire day for Tuesdays and also Wednesdays. But for my Tuesdays, I have 3 committees that I'm on. I have one that I serve on in the morning that carries over to the afternoon, which is public safety. And then there's 2 other ones that start at the same time. But if I have public safety I still have to make sure that I'm there. And then if I'm presenting a bill and I'm going to 3 other committees, I have to leave those and go to those ones and be across. So the day is very full, and it's not just on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. This is every day. This is Monday through Thursday.
Well, Lachey, when I was an elected official, we had evening meetings, and we reached a point, sometimes I would have meetings from like 5 o'clock to midnight.
Mm-hmm.
And we had to make a rule about the cutoff because people began to have accidents driving home because they were so tired. And it's something to sit in a hearing. People don't think you're working when you're sitting. But, I've sat in hearings 18, 20 hours at a time with people hollering and screaming the whole scenario. And so that can be very taxing. And I mention it because people need to understand the rest of what you do. When you finish that, you get back down here, you got a whole different schedule to make all the rounds in the district. So do you get here like on a Friday or because you were there Monday through Thursday, or
Monday through Thursday. Sometimes I come in a Thursday afternoon, or it's a Friday morning, and then you have events and meetings and or events on Fridays and Saturdays, and then I still do church visits on Sundays. So even though I'm not on that trail, I think that it's important for people to see who your representative is and see how they praise and worship with you. So I do church visits as well on my Sundays.
Well, I salute that. I'm a pastor and I don't do church visits. Dr. Thompson does, though.
Yes, I saw him, 2 weeks ago?
Yes,
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay.
So one of the questions.
So it is a lot. I think the one other bill that I do want to highlight for you all has to deal with another Black Caucus priority bill, which is Assembly Bill 785. And that one creates the Community Violence, the Interdiction Grant Program. And that is to fund proven community-led strategies for reducing violence. So it's basically establishing an actual fund from all of the prison closures and awards and make sure that the money from that is coming into a grant program so where we can stop saying that we don't have money. But the reality is there is some money there through this program that people can officially apply for, whether it's for schools, for health programs through school, or some other, community violence reduction program that we have within our various communities.
Okay.
So one of the
Dr.
things
Thompson.
I would love to find out from you is just the structure of your team and your staff when it comes down to your San Diego representatives and team here, and then your team up there in Sacramento.
I'm sorry, it is very hard for me to hear you.
Okay,
Dr.
can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I was asking you, can you break down your team that's here in San Diego and your team that you have up there in Sacramento, and how it all flows together.
Sure. Well, what I can tell you is that they made it a little bit difficult to only give us. Well, first it was seven, so now I'm finally getting another one. But it was seven staff total for district and capital, which is very difficult when you have a package such as the one that I'm having and all the different committees that I'm serving on and other things. But here in Sacramento, there are four here. I have a chief of staff, I have a scheduler, chief of staff, a ledge director, and a legislative aide. In our district, I have a district director and well, right now two field reps, and we're hiring another field rep.
Okay.
So, and the way it works is that, okay, all right, I'm sorry, my staff is asking a question. Yeah, okay. So there are so the way it works is we actually mirror each other. So even though we are here up in Sacramento working on bills, it is the district's responsibility, one, to be out there, to be available, to be seen, to be heard, to be an ear, and to make sure that our constituents are abreast about the work we are currently doing, but also to hear from them, because this process is not a me process. This process is an actual we process. So we have to do this work together. That's why I was elected, was to make sure all of our voices are being elevated. So they're at different community events. There's meetings that take place in our district office that is for constituent services meetings that are there, whether it's talking about school districts, healthcare, some other issues, whether it's some government issues, people need help with EDD or with their driver's license stuff, whatever it is, senior services, all that stuff. Our district office can handle, they are able to assist you with that. But we also tie that into the work we do up here. So if there are bills that fall into different issue areas and our concerns that our districts, that our constituents are talking about, our capital team is making sure that our district office is aware of that, and that's being shared out to you all, whether it's through my social media platforms, through e-alerts, through the actual mail, or through the local papers, or other avenues to make sure that folks are all aware of how we mesh together. And we also meshed together, and I want to highlight this for you all. I've been able to already successfully secure approximately $10 million in funding for the district to support to support the land use planning, affordability, as far as affordable housing and community development projects. And this is coming from conversations that we have with our constituents in regards to their needs, wants, and/or concerns. So we do mirror each other. This side handles more the policy side up here, and the district side handles more the boots on the ground, grassroots, constituent services, but also elevate your voices of what your concerns are and help us turn that into policy up here, or even have us investigate, look further into it to see if something was already done, and if it wasn't, then now we need to be held accountable and see how we can rectify that. So we
Lachey,
work together as a team.
can you share for the people, because everybody might not understand, would you share the cities that compose the 79th Assembly District? Because, everybody they hear the numbers, but they don't really understand the diversity of how you're set up.
Sure. Yes, because too often people think that it's only District 4,
No.
Yeah.
so City Council and also County District 4, and it's not. You have Senate District 39, which is Senator Weber Pearson, but you also have where I'm at, Assembly District 79. So I'm Southeast San Diego, all of La Mesa, all of Lemon Grove, the unincorporated areas of Bonita, the unincorporated areas of Spring Valley, and also the unincorporated areas of El Cajon, and I also have City Heights. So it's a large, a large group. So I represent over 500,000 constituents, and so we overlap. So I want people to understand that the fourth district for the county and fourth district for the city falls under the 79th. So we oversee the other ones, and then you have the Senate that's over me, plus those and a little bit more.
Well, let me ask you another question that most people don't understand. The city of San Diego is a charter city and is sovereign. The county of San Diego, of the 58 counties, is a charter county. So we have two county compositions, charter and general purpose. And so the general purpose fall more under the state constitution and the rules and the whole bit. So do you find difficulty? Because even, like, take health, for instance. All of our health efforts and programs come out of county health and human services. The cities that are represented, they have no health services. And so how is that, does that work for you? You're finding pretty good work because they can only work with intergovernmental relations agreements. And while that might work for the city, but overall, do you get cooperation from the other areas, municipal areas?
Yes, we do.
Good.
We do. We do work together. They come up here quite often as well to talk about budgetary needs and so forth. And and so we do dive into those deep, hard fought conversations about the needs for our constituents overall. But to answer your question, yes, we do tend to work together. They come up, we have the conversation, and most of the time it is budget asks. That's really what it is. It's mostly budget asks. However, I have been working closely with our District 4 rep for San Diego City. Keep in mind, I have the city of Lemon Grove, the city of La Mesa. So there's other
Right.
cities that we have. But I have worked closely with actually both La Mesa, really all of them, truthfully. But I've spoken to the representative Henry Foster for the Fourth Council District in regards to making sure that all of them as well, that they let me know what their needs are, because we typically get the opportunity to ask for district ask. This year, we're not sure how that's going to work, but I would like to know and hear from the county and from each city to find out what their ask is and see how I can work that out to be able to possibly get some type of budgetary item to accommodate, something, whether it's the park or whatever the project that we have. So not only have I flagged it for Henry Foster, but I flagged it for the mayor of Lemon Grove. So Mayor Snow, and also the mayor for La
I don't
Mesa.
want to dominate the conversation, but I want to ask you additional question.
Sure.
California has, NACO has the National Association of Counties. They have lobbyists in D.C. The Conference of Mayors and the League of Cities within the California chapters have lobbyists. I'm sure they interact with you for the things that they're concerned about. And so then we have our cities or the county, they have consultants, where they have official lobbyists that are paid. Most people don't realize this, that are paid to be in Sacramento. Do you have cooperation with those elements? Because all those organizations pay them to influence their agenda, which is not always in line with your concern. Did I put my finger on it?
Yes, you did. You
Okay.
did. Yes, we all cooperate. And one thing I can say that we can all agree to disagree on some of the things, but they do come up. The lobbyists come, we have our conversations, and we see where we can get things right. You know.
Okay.
So I kind of want to ask just a basic question for the people who don't really understand like the process, how things work. Like when you have the bill that you mentioned, I think it was 744. Was that right?
Oh, 766 or
766, yeah.
785.
I should have remembered 66, Route 66. But, just how does it work? Like, and when you have a bill, so did you do a study? Like when you mentioned that you're in hearings all day, is that all gathering information, people who are pro or against the bill or gathering information? How does it work for people who don't know?
So the legislative process for you to actually write the bills itself, that's a process that happened before everything meets the legislative council deadline. So we're having conversations, whether it's with lobbyists or it's with community organizations, or there's the different folks to talk about some of these different types of bills. So you have sponsors that have come up and they want to meet with you and all that stuff. But then you typically have your own things from what you brought back from your district, and you want to make sure that we get that into the different committees and ledge councils and let them do some of the background analysis of that to let us know, wait, hey, the bill has been tried before. They give us the ins and out of it and give us some recommendations on how we can be able to move forward. So we go through that process, and then from that point, then things are going to make its way to committee. And those committees, so the committees that I identify that I serve on, when these bills go to committee, this is where the authors are going to actually present the bill, meaning the assembly members. They are the authors. Okay, so their names are on it, and then you have sponsors that are there. They're also there, but they will then present the bill and bring in testimony. So they'll be able to speak truth to power, or try to humanize the situation by bringing in people to actually to help to get the actual dais, the other members in that committee to understand. From there, we vote to move it out of that committee to the next committee, depending on one, if there's an actual a physical component to it, which is requiring funding to it, or the actual subject matter may end up overlapping. So one bill I could have in public safety could be something that also needs to be heard over in higher ed or in the regular education. So they identify where these bills need to go, and the bills will go there. Once they go there, then they can go to the floor. But if they have a physical component, which is for the appropriations, which has a cap on it, if they don't make it out of appropriations, then they're going to sit there. So there's different processes for that. So some bills, they die. Some bills could be held for 2 years, for additional work or whichever. But if they get through appropriations, then it can come to the assembly floor. You vote on the floor, then it moves to the Senate House. And
Let
then it
me
has to
help.
get past Senate and then come back over.
Let's help with
and
that so that fill in a few of the pieces on this process. There are two components to legislation. There's authorization and there's appropriation. And if you don't, as you said, get the appropriations, then the authorization doesn't help. Many people get bills introduced because that's how they show that they're doing something. But the
Correct.
politics come with the chair of the committee and the committee members as to whether or not your bill gets scheduled for a hearing, because it needs to have a hearing before it gets reported out. And so they're not just automatically reported out.
No, they're not.
And so that's an important political thing in terms of building support. The other
Correct.
big piece on Latanya's question, I always think people get a little confused. When a member takes an idea back that someone wants something done, you don't draft it. You get with legislative counsel. Legislative counsel looks to see to what extent provisions already exist that address any element of your idea, and then they draft a document for you that shows omissions or revisions for certain sections to make the existing law come in harmony with what you're proposing
Yes.
to get done. And so my question then, because I asked you about committees, are there particular committees that you want to chair, or has it been too soon for you to chair? Because the politics are such that it's not based on longevity, it's based on politics.
Too soon for me to really decide. Right now I'm enjoying being on the committees
Okay.
and being able to be a sounding voice in that aspect. So eventually I'll probably have a decision for you, but right now I'm just being
Well,
on
when you get the
being on
chairmanship, then you get additional resources that support that chairmanship for the committee. It's not like you have to take all of your own office resources to
Correct.
do. And
Correct,
so
because
that's one of the
the
things that make people want to do it, right?
right, the
Yeah,
actual committee itself, there's already staff with that position. So
right.
you're not taking your current resources, you're getting added additional resources as well.
Okay.
So
So
yeah,
how?
there's a whole process to
Yeah.
this. And so a lot of people forget that and/or don't know and thank you so much, Dr. Warren, for breaking that other aspect down that, it has to even get a hearing first
Right.
before you even move forward. Luckily, we've had enough of them to where I have 17 bills that are in appropriate.
All
Wow.
right.
So
Okay.
we've been able to have a majority, really pretty much almost all of our bills, to be referred out, to be heard in different committees. Now it's just about doing the work to get them out of appropriations so they can come to the floor for an actual vote and be able to move to the Senate side.
And in each
Thank you.
case, you've got a politic with the membership of appropriations to get the votes to get it out. Okay. And I can't remember in the state, does the Appropriations Committee function as a Ways and Means Committee, or is this separate? They're supposed to be two separate things. I
Yeah,
don't know.
yes, it
It's
does.
not, it's not a big issue, but there's so much to this process that never gets to the lay people. They always used to say that laws like sausage, in order to be appreciated, should not be looked at while being made.
I have a question.
I didn't like that image in my mind there.
Let me. I have two questions. First question I want to ask is, being that you've worked with assembly member in the past and you've done some of the best work and a high level of work, how does the assembly assist in the mental health of the assembly itself? with all the stresses and the things that go on. Are there any built-in things that they have in the assembly itself for all of you all there that are burning the candle at every end? Do they have a break where you guys could take a walk around the Capitol and sing Kumbaya? Do they have any of those things built in for mental health?
To be honest with you, that's up to your member. That's not something that's actually embedded within, the work. I mean, of course, you're going to follow the regular protocols as far as work. You get your breaks, you get your lunch, you get all of that. But having been a staffer, I've made it a priority to make sure that I check on my team. Because if you are not here mentally, it's going to be very hard for you to, for you to do your job. So I do a check-in to really find out how my team is doing for their own wellness. And then I do work with them in regards to being able to address those needs. Because I get what it's like to have the candle being burning on both ends. And then some of us are married, some of us have children and etc. So it's all about also doing everything you can to carve out that time for your family and to recognize that you have to have that type of family time. And all that is needed. So I do, as the member, I talk to my team, I check in with them, and I make sure that I am accommodating them. They are having breaks. They can go do the mental health, go deal with their mental health itself. If there are some religious components that have to be addressed, I allow them for their time to go, to go pray and do everything for what they need to do. I don't hold them back. And that's just based off of my experience. You have to allow people to be able to live a good quality of life, and mental health is extremely important. And making sure that folks are accommodated to me also is extremely important. Now, I know that there will be some times where we have some deadlines. Be like, hold up, well, hold on, can't go right now. We got to do this. I mean, that comes with the territory. But overall, it's up to your member and them being able to show how much they truly care and value you as well, and recognize that there's a lot on your plate and give you that space and grace to be able to heal. You know what I mean? But not only heal, but to remain healthy so you can be there and be productive with them to help them get across the finish line.
This morning, I woke up to a lot of news around Assembly Bill 379, and saw Summer Stephan on, and many people discussing it, and they said a big decision, or they called it a reversal, was going to be made today on the Assembly floor. Can you clarify what is the big energy that they're having?
So it's not a reversal.
Okay.
Nothing has changed. I'm just telling you, nothing has changed. The bill is still the bill, and the conversation that took place is based upon a procedural process that was done on the floor. So no one was voting against children or anything of that particular nature. We've always done everything we can to actually protect children, and we wanted to make sure that as we do that, we continue to have open dialogue in regards to the right ways to ensure that we are protecting children. So as we continue to talk about things, nothing was changed. It was the overall leadership of who was on the bill, the authorship of the bill.
Okay. Thank you.
So, well, on that note, then, because so that the public can understand, was the bill tabled or pulled for future consideration, or an amendment made that stirred the thing? I mean, this is just for to help people understand
So
what actually took place.
there were amendments that were already agreed upon during public safety.
Right.
So the original author already agreed to those amendments. The hearing was heard. The hearing happened. The bill passed public safety, and it was then referred to the Appropriations Committee. After the bill was passed, there were some other things that basically the amendments that were taken, they no longer agreed with those particular amendments. So then you have everything else that's currently happening now. However, all of that is still in play. The bill is still 379. The conversation about addressing the 16, 17-year-olds, all that stuff is still there. And there's still a conversation within that bill also that's talking about loitering. So the bill was much bigger than what we're only hearing about is one component. There's a two-part component to the bill, but that's really it. The bill was already moving forward. So no one was pulling the bill, no one was holding the bill. The bill passed appropriations today, actually. So the bill is moving forward. No one was keeping the bill.
And the language is intact because one of the issues raised that people didn't realize is some of the language in the bill already exists in statute.
Correct.
Yeah, and so that's what we're talking
Correct.
about. You might explain that little wobbler part there, because that's where people got confused in terms of what was happening.
Well, I mean, California law already recognizes that a person who purchases sex from a 16 or 17-year-old can be charged with human trafficking, which is a felony. So no one was trying to take it away and say it wasn't a felony. It is a felony. Um, the there was legislation that was passed last year, and that was trying to make sure that we looked at the different types of situations that currently exist between youth. So 16, 17-year-olds are people who dated older, dated up, so between 16 and 19-year-olds and so forth. And so when you get into those situations, they want to look at that as making sure that those folks are not being charged in that aspect. So the wobbler comes in to where you have the gray areas, and it gives the judge the actual discretion to determine if you were a victim of sex trafficking, then of course the felony can be charged. But if you were not a victim of sex trafficking and X, Y, and Z happened, that's where the misdemeanor. So that's where the wobbler conversation came at from previous
And
legislation.
still in California, for females, if you're under the age of 18 and you're involved in one of those acts with someone who is older, they can still be charged with statutory rape in addition to all the other elements. So these were some of the elements that were felony components already on the books that
Already
people were
there.
not making an awareness of. And the wobbler became important because a person could turn 18 and they could still be vulnerable.
Hmm.
And now they done passed a statute over that statutory rape hurdle, but they still can be victims, and this is where the judge can come and help make a difference.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah. So, but it is a felony. That's
right.
that conversation of where we brought it's felony.
So when you begin to look at your vision for the assembly area that you cover, what we say are your big agenda items that you not only are pushing, but you need your community members to support and get involved.
Well, I mean, some of the bills that I already named off, or a number of things that I need community support on.
Okay.
I mean, when you talk about affordability, we have to look at it from a holistic view, and we can't just be, talking about it from this point to that point. We have to look at it, overall. So pushing for the CalFresh work, that is, trust me when I say that is crucial. It's critical, especially in this climate where we know that we have an administration that is seeking to cut it, to really cut things down. So people still deserve to have the right to have food on their table, and that's what CalFresh does. It is providing food, not only to our youth, but families, to our seniors, and to our food banks, all the above. And so we want to make sure that we have that. And the CalWorks is there. I need support with pushing CalWorks, as we need to remove some of these barriers, because that is a barrier to, once again, the affordability issue and keeping people in poverty. And my goal is to make sure that we do what we can to rebuild the middle class and, once again, move people out of poverty and to middle class, and be able to move them, continuously move people up. So 1324 is a bill that we need to get behind. As I mentioned, our three strikes bill 1279, we have to get behind, because we are the only state that is actually allowing this to happen, to utilize people's cases when they were juveniles to give them a strike. We have to change that. We can't continue to move forward in this matter when we're talking about, trying to um, reduce our prison population and all these other things. So we need to really say what we mean and mean everything we actually say. It goes beyond just that. There's some other conversations as it pertains to the local control accountability plan. So education, work that needs to happen to make changes for our school district. So that, Dr. Thompson, you're asking what can folks do? We can support the legislation that's here. I want people to look at the package itself and identify something that is meaningful to them. They can write letters to us, to our office, to our state, and to our committees, to let letters of support. They can call the other members who serve on various committees, or even those that are really all members as bills begin to move to the floor, to express their overall support for some of these bills moving forward. But I would love to see a San Diego presence, a hard, strong San Diego presence up here. I would love for folks to come up to advocate to support their own legislatures as well, because we have so many bills that's coming from the district, and it would be great to see the district here. But if you can't get here, yeah, call, email, so you can go through my website or even other websites. We have templates to give you, and you can utilize those actual templates to put letters out. Community organizations can come together and really pull in other partners as well, let them know what's going on, and everyone else can still continue to push. But it boils down to grassroots work.
Well,
So
you
that's
might recall in the past that we've had busloads of people from San Diego come to Sacramento on various legislative occasions. So one of the things that will help with what you're saying is if we have enough advance notice in terms of the committee scheduling activity of the floor action for people to actually be able to arrange to do that. Because it's easier to rent a bus and bring people up, as folks do from all over the state. They bring people all the time, as you probably see. And we're a little further away. It is a little bit of a drive now, and everybody can't afford to fly.
exactly.
But if we can get the information, Dr. Thompson and LaTanya and I, in terms of events, the way we have upgraded our website, it's possible for us to put a legislative page there to show what's coming up when, and to star those things that you think it would be helpful to have support for. And that star would give us what we need to know, but it wouldn't mean anything to anybody else necessarily.
Yeah, because we've already published the
Yeah.
contact information for the
Yeah, because we
representatives.
did a
We've done
special.
that. Yeah.
Yeah,
We have that on
we
our
put
website.
all of the elected officials out there.
Because I think that the thing is sometimes people don't know what to do, so it's so important
Exactly.
you sharing the different things. And as you were going down the list, I was thinking, okay, that's doable for the common person who's busy and, has their survival, what they have to do day to day, things that can keep them in the process. Of course, you have to have the will to want to be involved and learn and know what's happening. But as we can see, it all boils down to what's happening on the ground and how it affects us. So the work that you're doing directly affects us in our lives. So it's important for people to remember that too.
Thank you. And I want people to know and really understand that you have a voice. Your voice is powerful, and no one
Yes.
can silence your voice but you. So if there's something that you want to see change, and you know that there's someone who was advocating for that work, contact that office, find out how you can help support that particular bill. And then you can be out there in our district and convening, some of the meetings and organizations, and doing what you can to get a bus to come up here or whichever. But I need people to understand that when you vote for someone and you vote for that, you vote for them for a reason. You vote for them to help elevate your voice. So I need you guys to utilize that voice and make sure that we are speaking, truth to power based on what you're asking us to do. But if you guys don't agree with some legislation, you need to call us and let us know. Just like for, what was it, for 1444,
Right.
for that bill, you let us know, then we can look into that and we can find out, hey, hold on, then we could say, my district is saying X, Y, and Z about this bill, and et cetera, et cetera. That raises, additional flags, and then that opens up the door for additional conversations to even either stop a bill or change a bill or whichever, but to get the author to work with us, but to get them to hear you. And so the door is open. All you have to do, call, write, email, come up here, whichever the case may be, so we can know exactly where you are standing, and understand why you are standing there. Because I can tell you, it is so meaningful to hear people's testimonies. Your stories humanize everything that we do.
Yeah.
One of the things I want to say is that you're now an elected official, but for years, of all the time that I've known you, you served the community in many, many capacities before you actually became an elected official, from education to community involvement, just to working with young people. I would like to ask the question from a little brown young lady from the community of San Diego, the Lincoln Park area. What would you say to those young men and women that are seeing you where you're at, knowing that you came directly from their neighborhood? What words of encouragement would you leave them with as they need to learn to navigate this very complicated thing that we call life here in our state?
You gave me a deep question.
Uh,
Honestly, it would have to be who you are. Do not be afraid. And if you are afraid to call on your supreme being, whoever you believe in, and how you continue to move, because your steps will be ordered and you will be guided down the right path. Do what you can not to block your blessings. Allow those blessings to come in. And remember, it may not come in the package the way you want it to come, but it will be there. The road is not going to be easy, but don't let your community, meaning the negatives that people say, the stigma that exists, define you, because you are so much more than that. So much more than that. You have a village. You have a village that is here, that is there, that will carry you over that finish line. There's so many pillars in our community.
well, let's add a piece to that, Assembly Member, because so many people still don't understand the relationship between service and being served. And we need people who want to service as opposed to looking for ways to be served. And so that's important. And so when you are that person that Dr. Thompson talks about, and people like you and Precious who,
Jackson.
Oh, yeah.
Jackson, you all went through the whole gamut and through all kind of adversities, and you got your doctorate degrees in education, and you served at the county board, so now you're there. When you talk to Thurman, you can talk to him with authority. You probably know more about education than he does.
Oh,
Okay.
gosh.
Yeah, well, this is important because even today, a lot of people don't realize that the first black instructor for California, of superintendent of instruction, was a man named Wilson Riles. And Wilson Riles did a phenomenal job. That was back in the days when, what's his name, became mayor of L.A. But
Tom Bradley.
yeah, Tom Bradley. But I remember Wilson many times being in Washington lobbying, and one of the significant things, this is when the Latino vote was beginning to emerge and develop. And it started in Texas, where the kids were having problems with how they were being taught. And he realized we had a Latino population here, and he moved to get things done. And so I think it's important that we look back at some of the history that we've had here in this state. The first black man to run for lieutenant governor, and was a gentleman who was a publisher of a paper, and he was very involved. And we still had Merv Dimely surface to that position of being a lieutenant governor, and we had a lot of blacks in office during Willie Brown's era, but we should have a lot more. And the districts are changing, and the people you have to work with all ethnicities in terms of what you're doing. You just can't be there just for one element. And when you get to some of the rural places like Spring Valley and going further south, well, even the way the lines are drawn for the Board of Supervisors, there is gerrymandered intentionally to have Spring Valley and those areas in larger rural areas, so that no matter how upset they get, they'll never have enough votes to change anything. And so you're key, and communicating with us as we try to encourage the rest of the caucus. If they communicate with us at all times along the way, we can be helpful. And they can build up support, not just wait till election time to do it.
Right.
And you're doing it. Okay.
Thank
I'm
you.
not. I've taken too much time with my colleagues here. They got a couple of minutes. So
Well, I'll just say that, again, very godly proud of you in the work that you've been doing and have done all of your life. Very godly proud to see that we have an elected official that makes it a part of her agenda to visit the churches because they are truly the backbone of our community, and they do so much. And I'm very proud of you that being a mother, being a person that is truly a community servant, that you are still yourself 110% no matter where you're at. And I'm also very proud that every time I see you on camera or in the newspaper, I'm like proud to say she's our representative. So I just want to let you know,
Wow.
very proud of you.
Tanya, you get the last word.
I get the last word. Gosh,
Yeah.
you put me on the
Don't be
spot.
trying
Now
to
I
lay
can't
that
think
Not
of
bar
it. I can't think. Well, just to second everything you said, and like I said at the beginning, just it's just so great to hear everything that you're doing, and it's your passion is so evident, and it's just so nice to know that we are not alone. With everything that's going on, it can be very discouraging when you turn on the news, and it's clear that elections matter, not just the national, but the local,
Right.
and being involved and understanding what's happening because it directly affects your life. So having a representative like you, is very encouraging and it provides hope. So I thank you.
Thank you.
And we look forward, I know we'll see you here, but I'm looking forward to May 19th, that legislative day that we'll be moving around the halls of the legislature, talking to people and lobbying for some of the things that we want to get done. So
Okay.
we're
I
excited.
look
We
forward
thank
to
you for
seeing
coming
you.
on.
Thank
Always
you.
glad to, as Dr. Thompson says, you don't change, you're consistent. We appreciate it. And we're here to help you anytime we can.
Thank you so much.
All right,
Appreciate it.
Can't
All
wait to
right.
hear about that template
yeah,
and getting involved.
yeah.
All right.
But
I
with
will
that,
make sure you guys get that from my district office. I'll give it to
Awesome.
you.
Okay.
wonderful. With that being said, this is from the desk of the editor with Dr. John Warren. We want to thank you all for tuning in. Again, stay tuned. Please subscribe to the website and the app with the San Diego Voice and Viewpoint. If you have any questions or concerns, please contact the San Diego Voice and Viewpoint, as well as if you will have a rebuttal or anything that you want to put in, write to the paper and get your voice heard. And Dr. Warren would always say, people without a voice,
Cannot be heard.
again, have a great evening.
Thank you again.
You're welcome. Thank you.